What is happening to me?
Welcome to The Real Generation Gap. I'm Rudy Ruiz.
And I am Fred Satilli.
And today we're going to be talking about the brand new 2025 The Wolfman. The Wolfman is directed by Leigh Whannell, who's famous for being the writer of the Saw franchise and directed many other great films, including a recent other Universal remake, The Invisible Man from 2020. This was co-written by him and his wife, Corbett Tuck, and stars Christopher Abbott and Julia Garner. Julia, who's famous for Ozark and is now going to play the Silver Surfer, apparently.
A woman Silver Surfer?
Yeah, I guess so.
Hey, she was phenomenal in Ozark.
Yeah, she's great.
What a, wow.
She's a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah.
So this film, has Blake and Charlotte, husband and wife, and their daughter, Ginger, go on a trip to Oregon where he's going to inherit his father's farmhouse. And on the way to the house, they get into an accident where they see some kind of half man, half creature in the road. They crash the car. He gets scratched by the creature and gets infected. And I mean, you can imagine where it's going to go from here. So I thought this was a really good kind of modern take on the Wolfman. They let go of the silver bullets and full moon,
the gypsy
pentagram, all that kind of lore that we saw in the classic Universal, launch.
Right. Well, they took it from Europe and they made it American.
Yeah.
And instead of the loup-garou, right? That's the Wolfman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I like this kind of grounded approach of it's more of a, you get this title card in the beginning. There will be spoilers, by the way, as always. This kind of title card about, this virus, this animal-born virus that turns like man into beast if you get infected kind of thing. It's like legendary. It's mythic. The indigenous people called it the face of the wolf or something. There was a
right.
Yeah.
The indigenous word was great because it was like really a lot of letters. You could never remember that.
Yeah. Ultimately, I thought it was a good modern take. I felt that, first off, the opening scene or the whole opening sequence, I thought was really well done with him as a kid. You get to know the father. They're out in the woods. They already established very quickly that there's going to be something here about, generations and like father-parent dynamics, I guess, like father-son and protecting your kids and all that,
That's where my problem began.
Really? Okay, let's hear it.
The father, when the Wolfman was a little boy, the father took him, hunting in the woods, and he told him, "You have to listen to me and do what I say. I'm your protector. I'm your protector. It's up to me to protect you. If there's danger out here. It's beauty and there's death. You got to let me. You can't defy me because I'm your protector. That's my job." It's like, all right, already, you're the protector. Then when he grew up and he had the little girl Ginger who did not have red hair, they're in the city.
Yeah.
And he's like, "You have to listen to me. I'm your protector. I'm here. Daddy loves you. Daddy wants to protect you. Do the psychic link, with the forehead and everything." Yeah. And then it was like, okay, you're the protector. Like this whole protector thing was overdone.
Yeah. I see what you're saying with that. But I like that at least when they show him, 30 years later, he's trying to suppress all that and be very different with his kid, right? It just there's that situation where she doesn't listen and he kind of freaks out a little bit.
But he's not.
He's not what?
But he's not different. He's his father. He's
it's part of him. It's baked into his being. He's trying to be different, he's trying to be calm.
He's aware.
But it's in there, yeah. I thought it was interesting too to kind of start off with, and I'm bringing this up because I don't know that they really paid off emotionally later. I'll start by saying I liked the movie overall. I thought it was a pretty good take. Going back to the opening scene, I like the suspense they built around, he sees it in the scope, just kind of peeking behind the tree. Like, I thought that was a really
everybody's catching a glimpse.
Yeah.
Everybody,
really creepy shot. And then when they're hiding in the treehouse and then there's the breath and all that. But when we get into the 30 years later scene, we meet Charlotte, his wife, again, played by Julia Garner. We get a sense of their relationship. Both of their relationship to their kid, right? The daughter is a lot more close with the father.
Right, because he's the house husband.
Exactly.
He lost his job. The wife is now the breadwinner.
Yeah.
He's spending time with the daughter. And I agree with you on that. It was very interesting to see her intimidated by her daughter. She's like, "I don't know that I'm a good mother. I don't have the relationship you have. I don't even know how to spend time with her. Like, what is she interested in? You know, and I went through this in my own life. I was the breadwinner. I worked 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. And my wife was at home with my kids, and she was much more in tune with their day-to-day foibles.
Yeah.
You know, and that's an interesting circumstance of life. You know, I don't know if it's supposed to be that way. I don't know if it can be shared. First of all, both parents are going to have, they're different people.
Yeah.
So they're going to have a different relationship no matter what. You know, they're going to have a different risk tolerance, you know, a different way to decide what a child can get away with or what they should or how they should speak. You know, sometimes you have a parent where one uses profane language and the other doesn't, and the child's caught in between two worlds, right? So that whole thing is always a real big issue. And it was brought out well in the movie that she was the powerful worker making the money, but she wasn't the powerful parent.
Right.
And she had true, genuine trepidation. Interesting dynamic.
Yeah, I did think there could have been more with it as the movie progressed, though. You know, like I thought it would come back later, you know, when stuff's starting to go haywire, he's infected, they're losing him, you know, slowly. And we'll get more into that.
And the daughter stayed so faithful, didn't she?
Yeah.
And even the wife stayed faithful. Even when he was actually manifestly the wolf man.
Yeah.
They were like, we're still gonna cure you.
Yeah,
we're gonna get you somewhere. We're gonna fix this. And they stayed that way, faithful right to the end.
But I thought, I guess I thought there'd be a point, maybe like the midpoint where we get to a section. I don't remember if it's right before they get attacked or after the second time. This is after they're already at the house and he's infected. And there's a moment when the dad's really sick and the kid goes to the mom. And it's just like, we got to make him better. And we got to I need him and he's got to be here. And so I thought for the rest of the movie, they were going to be at odds where the kid is going to like reject the mom.
Right.
You know,
she's going to try to save her dad despite her mom.
Exactly. And get into some kind of trouble that now, you know, the mom's got to.
None of that happened.
And it didn't happen, which, you know, I thought it was going to go that route. And there probably could have been a lot more drama pulled out had they gone that way. But at the same time, I'm almost kind of glad they didn't. Maybe it would have been too predictable or a little too melodramatic or something. I'm not sure.
I'm glad they did what they did.
Yeah.
You know, and when I say they, it's, you know, the guy who wrote this and directed it and, you know, executive producer and everything. I mean, this was one of those movies that really was the brainchild of one person. And he kind of drove everything. And when that happens, we're seeing that a lot lately, right? Megalopolis, you know, there's been a bunch of movies that have been that way. And I don't know if that's good. I don't think the writer should be the director. I don't know if that, you know, the movies that are that way, they seem to be kind of at some point quick and dirty. They seem to be more predictable or more, I don't know how to describe it, but I find that I don't like it as much. I don't like a movie as much. It's not that I've decided this. It's that when I see it and at the end I see this guy was the writer, the producer, the director, you know, everything like that. It's kind of like, this was your baby. We didn't get to see an ensemble of creators. You know what I mean? Yeah.
It's like the auteur. I feel the opposite way. I like when it's primarily one person's vision, you know, and of course they're collaborating with people, you know, and it's a crazy thing too, right? Because to what degree is the collaboration? And for all we know, it's like, yeah, Leigh Whannell like co-wrote, directed it, you know, his brainchild. But for all we know, the producers came in and gave them all kinds of notes and changed everything that I'm like, maybe they were going to do what I was talking about and they changed it all.
Right.
Like, yeah,
and
we
it
would
could
never
be
really
that like
know.
the editor and the cameraman had more to do with it. Like, they're like, look, we're going to shoot this scene this way.
Yeah.
You
another
know,
thing, editors, like, yeah, I mean, I'm sure he's got enough clout to where he's got a lot of creative control, but yeah, we never really know, which is always interesting.
Yeah. Who made the movie?
Yeah.
But when I see a movie where it seems like one person's game, you know, it always seems to be, to me, not always the greatest movie. And we're seeing more of that now. We're seeing more.
Oh man, I feel like I guess now we're in full on movie talk, but I feel like we see less. We see less of that kind of auteur filmmaking, you know, like who do we have that's doing that like really to a high level now? It's like we have Chris Nolan. We've got Quentin Tarantino. We just lost David Lynch yesterday as we're recording this. You know, there's not that many people like anywhere. Those are only two I can think of off the top of my head. Like Spielberg, maybe. I guess he'd be considered an auteur, probably.
I think so too.
Yeah. But I mean, we're thinking really like the biggest names out there. You know, it's like everything else I feel is a little more committee, and you do have to bow
well,
to,
certainly all like the Disney and everything like that. That's
for sure.
Totally.
Yeah, that's a whole other. Yeah. Yeah, you got some suits just running all of that into the ground.
And it's funny because those are bad.
Yeah.
Like what the complaint I'm making is.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. I guess going back to the movie here, that is an interesting point. But you know, I like this modern take. Like I had mentioned again, I think the suspense in the opening scene was great. I kind of like that when he gets infected, Blake, you know, he gets scratched on the arm, the other dude gets killed. That in this movie, it's a very slow process. It's almost like The Fly. They do lean a little more into a body horror kind of thing. Not as much as I thought it would be, but more into that where he's getting sick. And I kind of like the idea of his senses getting heightened, like when he's hearing the thudding and he thinks something's up, and it's just like a tarantula.
Yeah, he could smell things and see things. Yeah. And, you know, and you know, I'm really glad I didn't think of it when you compared it to The Fly. It really was very much that way because there were moments when he was more human and more human when it was irresistibly the wolf. So he would like look at his wife and it's like, I'm going to eat you. And then he would recognize her and be like, all of a sudden, even the makeup, he was much more the man.
Yeah.
You know, and then it would be like irresistible to him. And he went outside and howled at one point, right? It was like, I got to do this. Like, you know, and then him seeing his transition where his teeth fell out and his fingernails fell out and things like that, where it was, you know, this is going to happen to you whether you like it or not. And even the two of them, the wife and daughter, they had a transition. They kind of agreed to support him and try to save him. And even right to the very end, you talk about spoilers, at the very end, she gave him every last second of hope. Yeah. You know, they really did hang on and stay faithful. And he tried his hardest too to remain his humanity. Right. Even though he could see claws coming out of his hands, he was like, I don't want this. I don't like this. You know, he wasn't reveling in the fact that he was changing. Yeah. You know, where in the ancient Wolfman stories, they just go full bore wolf. Like, you know, it's in a short amount of time.
I did love too, the idea of putting us in his perspective, how he's seeing it. Like there's one moment, I think it's after he passes out. So now he's further into being sick. He wakes up and he walks down and everything's brighter. I almost thought like, oh, it's the next day. It's like,
well, when they did his eyes, his eyesight.
Yeah, exactly.
So they had like, it looked like 3D without the 3D glasses, like kind of like how TikTok is, right? Like, you know, it was like, oh, this is the way he sees it. He sees these colors and he hears these sounds. Yeah. And that was very trippy. Yeah, it was really cool. Like when they first do, I'm like, oh, okay, the sun's up, it's brighter, and he's hearing her on the radio, the CB radio, but it's muffled, and then the camera will kind of switch around, and then you see how dark it actually is, and now it's her perspective. And when he's trying to say, I don't understand, like I can't understand you, I can't hear you, but for her, the wife, he's just kind of mumbling and growling and so I thought that was a really cool way to do it, and they used it really well. The dark, like this movie is very dark. Yeah, this isn't one you want to go see at a drive-in. You've got to be in love, have a bright screen, and they use it very well. They use that very well to build like the scares, like and the suspense. Yeah, too many jump scares.
I didn't think there was that many, or maybe I was expecting too much. I was expecting a lot more than there was. The first kind of big moment would be the opening scene with his father when they go in the treehouse and you see the breath, and then the breath's behind them. And I'm like, all right, he's going to come up and grab him. There's going to be, I was like bracing myself, and then nothing ever happened. They just kind of,
all of a sudden it dissipated. Yeah.
And I was like, okay, that's interesting. You really kind of ramped it up and then didn't do anything with it.
Now, you mentioned the father in the treehouse. Let's include this in this discourse. When he's driving to his father's house, he gets the death certificate. Now, really, his father had been missing for years, but they didn't declare him dead. I guess they had a statute of limitations or something. And finally, they said, look, we're going to admit it. He's dead. You know, here's the deed to the house. You go there. Here's the keys. And you go up there. And, of course, on their way there in the dark, because they got lost, there's a figure in the road, and he swerves to miss the figure and goes like down the embankment with the truck, right? Now, who was that figure in the road? Who was that figure in the road, right? Well, later in the movie, as he's turning into the Wolfman, there's another Wolfman out in the woods, and he has to fight that Wolfman. And he's torn between protecting his family. Now he's the protector, even though he's the Wolfman, right? And it's kind of wolf on wolf at that point, right? And he's got to fight him, and he keeps fighting him. And at one point, he sees the tattoo on the arm of the other Wolfman, and he realizes that's his father.
Yeah.
His father has been infected, and now that's why he's been missing. He went in the woods one day and never came back, right? So he realizes he kills his father.
Yeah.
And now he's the legacy. He's the legacy Wolfman. And that's like kind of a heavy moment.
Yeah. And they set it up in that opening scene when his father's on the radio talking to the neighbor and he's like, we got to protect our boys. And the guy that they meet in the treehouse later is the son of that person he was talking to.
Right.
So about the same age as Blake. And we see the tattoo and he's talking about how I saw it. It's real. I'm going to go hunt it. Like, we got to go get it.
Right.
And so we know that he probably spent, how much of his life looking for this thing.
And then it got him.
Yeah. And it got him. And I had a feeling
he might have killed that one.
Yeah.
But now he turned into it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And I had a feeling that was going to happen because, they make it a point to show the tattoo and the name and all that. I'm like, okay, this is probably going to come back. I thought the mushrooms were going to come back, but of course,
that was a weird, that could have been edited out.
Yeah. And I thought, maybe they're going to use that to poison the Wolfman or so. I don't know.
Right. But, like at the last second, he grabs a mushroom and sticks it in his mouth or something.
Yeah. But they set that up really well. And I will say, though, so I'm watching this and we know that there's the other kind of Wolfman out there and we know he's transforming. And I really didn't want there to be like a full on fight, though. I thought that was a little cheesy. Like, I guess I'm kind of torn about it now. It was handled well, but as we were getting it,
they could have had Rowdy Roddy Piper.
Yeah. Right. No, I was just thinking, I was like, please don't make this into like a monster mash. Like, they're going to fight. And then they do. And it's fine. Again, I think it's executed pretty well. I was just like, I don't know. But I also feel it needed more bloodshed. So it would have had a lot less if there weren't that aspect to it.
This was a movie we both agreed to, we both wanted to see this or something. Yeah. But this was much more your kind of movie than it was mine. I know that. And the reason I say that is because maybe it's my age. But I did not think this was scary. I really, to me, scary at my age, I think is like a psychological thriller. Like something that's more like in the mind and, like an unfair society, like maybe a government regime that's out of control, or maybe an indigenous people that have different beliefs, or even like the Chainsaw Massacre, right? Where you had like psychos in the woods, like you can't escape their, they got the goods on you. And something like that is more scary than a monster that you could just shoot.
Yeah.
And what flabbergasted me was that house had no guns in it.
I know. I was expecting them to find an armory or something.
Yeah, he's going to open one of those cabinets and take out the 308s and like arm everybody, teach the daughter how to shoot. Like, we find out that his wife was once in the Marine Corps. None of that stuff happened. So the fact that there was a farmhouse with this guy, he was a gunner. He was a hunter.
Yeah.
And his house was completely a void. There was nothing. There wasn't even a bullet in there. And I found that hard to believe. And for a scary movie, it wasn't scary for me. And like I said, maybe it's just my age. Maybe it's like what I'm afraid of now. Like, I'm more afraid of a medical issue than a guy with a gun. The storyline was okay. It had a legitimate storyline. I actually like and appreciate what you said in the very beginning of the review, where they really made it an American monster, not a European monster. It wasn't the guy from Transylvania, out, with the gypsies and that kind of thing. It was, if you like monster movies, go see Wolfman.
That's it.
I don't know. Do you have more to say about it? Are you ready?
No, I mean, that's pretty much it. Like, I think it's solid enough. I feel like the scares, there could have been more. I think I was expecting more, so it didn't fully deliver. Cinematography, I really enjoyed. It's very dark, like I said before. the transformation. This is one more note I'll give is I was expecting there to be the big like transformation set piece, right? Because when it comes to the Wolfman movies, that's ever since the original, that's kind of, I guess, a key ingredient.
It's classic,
that makes
seeing
them,
him
right?
turn.
Yeah, like
his turn was more like The Fly. It was very lengthy and not really definitive.
Yeah, like the slow process. And I thought that was cool, just how his skin's changing. You know, the teeth falling out, the hair's falling out over time. And there is the one moment after he kills the other one where he does go outside and he's like, you know, his bone structure's changing. So we get a little bit of that.
That kill was a turn on for him, you know. That really got the wolf testosterone going or something.
And the special effects on it, like it looks very practical and really well done. It wasn't horrible CGI or anything, so I do appreciate that. But I thought they were gonna, you know, if I reference another movie, An American Werewolf in London, Rick Baker's transformation effects in that movie to this day has to be the best ever done. Yeah. It's in the Rob Bottin's transformation effects and The Howling, also great. I think they were like the same year, but the American Werewolf in London one is just so out of this world. Still untouched in my opinion. And I was listening to an interview with Leigh Whannell where the director, where he was talking about how, like we're not even going to, you know, necessarily try to top that. I'm going to do something different. Like that's what that is. I'm going to do my own movie. And I appreciate that. Like, do your own thing. We don't need to one up everybody else. And it does look great in this. Don't get me wrong. But, and I'm fine with it. I accept it, but I couldn't help going into the movie. Like I found myself waiting for that moment, you know, but that's probably just me just because. No,
I think that's a pretty reasonable expectation.
Yeah.
You know, the thing that I didn't touch on that I wanted to at least mention was what a musical score. Holy mackerel, gigantic and symphonic. Mm-hmm. You know, it wasn't like just a cheap, you know, garage band on your phone score or whatever like that thing. I don't remember the name of the composer.
I don't know.
But it was it was a real movie score, you know, in the old sense. And in a scene where you're out in the woods and there's no talking and all there is music, boy, it was really effective. The music told the story a lot of times.
I don't remember it at all, and that can be a good thing, right?
Because it was so subliminal.
It was so effective that I don't even recall any melodies, but I know it was there, and I know it made me feel a certain way as I'm watching it.
And in the theater that I saw it in had tremendous surround sound.
Nice.
And in this movie, that's a good thing because there was heavy breathing from over there that went over here, and the way they did it with the surround sound thing, the sound really traveled. When you heard footsteps, it was really going somewhere. And I really appreciated that. I was like, listen to that, you know? So kudos to the composer of the score in that movie. And
all right. What are you going to rate this one?
I'm just giving it a 5. 5. It wasn't scary for me. And I don't, jump scares don't do it for me. I'm like, you know. I
mean, Nosferatu had more jump scares than this one, which is kind of funny to think. I wouldn't have expected that. I'll give it a 6. Yeah, this one's a 6 for me.
Oh, you're kind of in the middle. Okay.
Yeah, we'll see. Time will tell if this stands up, you know. I felt pretty good about it, but yeah, it's all right. I do think it's worth checking out, so go see it in theaters. You know, that way we keep getting some good horror movies. And honestly, for me, I'm just going to throw this out there real quick. I wouldn't mind Leigh Whannell continuing to remake these kind of Universal monster movies. Like, I thought The Invisible Man was a pretty good one that he did. This one I thought was pretty good. And, you know, they tried to do that.
And in The Invisible Man, he did the same thing. A really different take on it.
Yeah, very modern.
He
like
just,
the 3D cameras, suit, and all that I thought was interesting. But yeah, because Universal tried to do the whole dark universe thing probably like 10 years ago now, where it was going to be like the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but they were going to remake all the old monster movies.
Right, yeah.
But it failed very drastically with the first film out. So not that I want a cinematic universe, but I wouldn't mind if Leigh Whannell in a couple years give us a Creature from the Black Lagoon, or, you know, give us a Frankenstein.
Right, I mean, Phantom of the Opera.
Phantom of the Opera. Like, I'd be down with that.
Have you ever seen the silent Phantom of the Opera?
I haven't, man.
Yeah, I haven't.
Yeah.
It's what Nosferatu is to Nosferatu. The original Phantom of the Opera is creepy.
Right.
You know, and same thing, The Hunchback of Notre Dame.
Yeah.
The original black and white one of that.
Yeah. Lon Chaney Sr., right? In both roles,
yeah.
I believe. Yeah.
Yeah, really monstrous. You know, the people in the town were hideous and all that, but we're talking about Wolfman. So I get a 5. Rudy gives it a 6.
Yep.
Once again, like we always say, right? Let us know. Let us know how you feel.